Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Hello and welcome to Countryside here on Manx Radio. I'm Simon Clark.
And I'm Kirree. At the weekend, I popped along to St John's to the 73rd Annual Beekeepers Convention and Exhibition.
And I talked to Chris Hall, who's the man behind the new Viking Village project in the north of the Isle of Man, and found out the latest news of the development. Well, firstly, Kirree, before we get into things, a lot happening in the agricultural world. There's still a bit of unrest, and with animals in particular, I suppose.
That's right. Routes to market here on the Isle of Man have slowed up considerably with the bad weather for any people exporting the cattle or sheep off the island has not played ball, and also into Isle of Man meats, it's slowed up at the moment as they try and get on top of some of the staff shortages there. So a little bit of unrest, but we're looking forward to the Christmas Prime Stock Show, which is on the 21st of this month, so that's something nice to look forward to, and then it won't be long till Christmas Mart, I suppose.
No, it won't be, and we'll see if I can nip along and get a word with Minister Barbara about the current situation in the agricultural world here on the Isle of Man. But firstly, we spoke a few months ago now to Chris Hall, who's behind the Viking project, the village at the north of the Isle of Man at Sandygate, Kirree. And I went along to catch up with him to find out the latest news there. And, planning has now been passed. Must be great news.
Yes, yeah, indeed. It was an eventful day. The planning committee and the planning officer, they were all very supportive throughout the process. And, yeah, we came out with the planning for it. So, moving forward now and into the winter mundane things that need to be done to get it all in place. So the name has now changed, not the spirit of the project or anything like that, but it's changed from the Sandygate Viking project to the Manx Viking project Sandygate. The reason behind that is really for financial support and for sponsorship, etc. It makes a lot more sense to have it Manx-based. The last Manx project was over 1,000 years ago, so I don't believe there's going to be any rush for anybody to say I've got a monopoly, which I haven't. But so the Manx Viking project is the name of it going forward, and hopefully that'll help us to get it going quicker.
It's one of those things when it was first mentioned. I think every man and his dog sort of went, "What a great idea! Let's get behind this and try and help out what we can." But a lot of things, as you've just mentioned, behind the scenes that need to be in place, is there? Yeah,
there's a lot of the what I call the tedious tasks. Still need to set up a business bank account, and I can't bring myself to ask for anything from the public until I've got a proper place to put any funds, so everything's kept above board. As I keep stressing, it's a not-for-profit exercise. I'm not doing this to make money. And there's all those things like insurance, so I can't accept volunteers on the site until I've got liability insurance, because if somebody breaks their arm and sues me, then the whole project comes crashing down. So we've got to get all of these things in place, and then hopefully by spring next year we'll be in a position where we can open up the doors and go, right, let's get this site built and get on with it.
And what's the first thing on the agenda to get done?
We need to make sure that people can get onto the site and park up, so they're not cluttering up the road, etc. So getting the entrance done, getting the car park done, and getting the storage yard done in the first field are of paramount importance at the moment. We can't accept materials, so the majority of the materials being used are going to be stone and wood. So we're hoping to get people who may have a barn down or something like that want to say, "Oh, do you want to take this stone for your project?" Or likewise, a tree that's come down, do you want to take this tree for your project? We need to be able to get them onto the site and store them in such a way that they can be used for the building. So those groundworks in the field need to be done. So not only the volunteers have got somewhere to park, but also we've got materials that we can actually use to build it.
Was it 2012 when you first started the project? I mean, it's been a few years in plan.
Yeah, I mean, the project's been in my head for a long time. I first came up with the idea while sat not at the Len camping one weekend, and it was a case of it would be a nice-ish place to do a Viking settlement at the Len. However, it wasn't my land, so I'd need to, bow down to requests from landowners and things like that, and maybe pay rent as well. So the whole idea went into abeyance for a number of years, and then it was only, as I say, 2019, 2020, when I was very fortunate to get the land that I've got, and it came flooding back into my mind that this is, the perfect place to do it. So we're very fortunate in that term on the project. Is there's no profit, but there's also no loss. So the project will only move forward as fast as the island pulls together and helps me with that, with donations and materials, etc. But if that doesn't happen as quickly as I expect, then the project will still move forward. It just won't move forward as quickly as I want it to. So there's no debt incurred, there's no loss incurred, there's no rent being paid or anything like that. So this project, I'm hoping, will remain organic and just grow as fast as the island wants it to grow.
Because I think you mentioned in the past that you're planning permission for solar panels and trying to be as self-sufficient as you can with utilities.
Yes, certainly. I'm in talks with Manx Telecom at the moment about about the 4G connectivity. We've got solar at the moment. I've got a wind turbine to go up. I've got to possibly speak to Manx Utilities about that, about a telegraph pole to put that on. That should pretty much cover our electricity needs all year round. I've got a backup diesel generator, don't like using it, but in the winter when there's no sun and it rises very low over the mountains, sometimes with a little bit of cloud you don't get any sun at all. So I do have to pop the generator on once in a while. I'm hoping once the wind turbine's up, that should negate the need for the generator as an ongoing thing. It is all about environmental sustainability, etc. So again, with that, there are no electricity bills. It's another thing. It's all bought and paid for, all of that. I've already paid for all of this. So going forward, all I'm looking for is help building the project. I don't need help with anything else.
And what sort of interest have you had from public with the willingness to help once you go ahead to do a bit more?
Yeah, we're very lucky. I've got a couple of very, very good timber framers. So the guys at Derrick Designs are very interested in helping with the construction of the project. I've got another woodworker based down at Tremode. He's very interested in doing some wood carving towards it. We've got stonemasons, we've got builders, we've got electricians, etc. There's an awful lot of support, and the emails are already starting to come in from the website now, from volunteers, people. We've got somebody who's a traditional boat builder who's built boats all over the country who wants to get involved. And there's an actor that really wants to get involved in the reenactment side of it and things like that. So I'm really hoping really hope that the Manx Vikings are heavily involved in this as well, and it's a good base for them to do their historical reenactments.
Yeah, because it happens at Peel, a lot of this sort of stuff with the the fighting on the beach, the summer against winter and things like that's happened in the past. I mean, there's space for that in the future, hopefully.
Yes, definitely. I mean, the work that the Manx Vikings do at Tynwald Day and the things like the Fire Festival that I know they're all involved in, they're absolutely brilliant spectacles for the Isle of Man, and they're an asset. And hopefully, the main issue with all of that is they have to put it all up for the event, and then they'll have to take it all down again after the event and leave everything as they found it. This will be something that is there all the time, 365 days a year, that they can use and they can move into, and everybody can benefit from that. And there's nothing better than a permanent backdrop to something, especially historical. So it'll help everybody and educate people as well.
And these, I was away in the Czech Republic not long ago, and they had a village that was put back to medieval times, and they were doing the falconry and the making of tools by hand, the way that they were done years and years ago, the way they were dressed and the way they were camping on the site. It was tremendous. And so many people were interested in keeping that sort of, or being part of it, really.
Yeah, I mean that I call it an immersive experience. And when you step into something like that, you can honestly, you can hear, you can hear, you can smell, you can see, and it gives you that sense that you've gone back in time, and that's what I'm trying to recreate at Kattegat with this Viking project, is somewhere that people can not only escape the location but also their era, and immerse themselves in something else, even for a few hours. And I think it's going to be very therapeutic to people.
If anyone wants to get involved or help with the project or find out a bit more, Chris?
Yeah, so we've got the Facebook page, which is the Manx Viking Project. We've got the website, which is manxvikingproject.com. I've also got a YouTube channel, which you can find on the Manx Viking Project. So on the website, there are, under the How Can You Help section, there are sections there for sponsors, for donations, and for volunteers. And there's contact forms on all of those, so they can get in touch via that. I am quite inundated. I've had to take my mobile number off the website and off the Facebook page, because I was getting quite a few telephone calls from people, and it was just a little bit overwhelming for a while. So I prefer via the email, because then that way we've got a list sat there. We can put them all into a spreadsheet sort of thing with people's skill sets and and then we'll be back in touch with everybody in the spring, hopefully, and start this rolling.
Chris Hall from the Manx Viking Project Sandygate, the new name for it that it's under there, and so enthusiastic, and seems like he's got a lot of people who are supporting this, Kirree, isn't it?
It really is wonderful for the island, isn't it? Our history and heritage there in a nutshell, the Vikings, and what a lovely place it will be once all of it's all done out, and the passion really coming through. He's just an unbelievable guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, and he just, if you like I say, if you want to get involved in that, just help out, just the skills side of it they need, and just mentioning there the great thing about it, hopefully be self-sufficient with some wind turbine there and some solar panels, so be all great for everything. It'd be like a holiday back in time, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it just?
You're listening to Countryside here on Manx Radio with Kirree Kermode and myself, Simon Clark. Well, sort of time where the bees are stopping flying and getting sort of stacked up for the winter with some food, because you've got to give them a bit of nutrition to keep them going. But you found out more about all of it, didn't you?
Yes, I did. On Saturday, I popped along to the Isle of Man Beekeepers Federation convention and exhibition of honey and confectionery. I caught up with the guest on the day, Dawn Colley from the education, who is an education officer from the Manx Wildlife Trust, the visiting judge, Peter Lewis from Yorkshire, and also Roger Putman from the Isle of Man Beekeepers, the president. Well, Peter Lewis, judge for this year's honey show. How have you found it?
Fabulous, great show, super level of entrance, 141 in total, across 40-something classes.
Goodness.
Quite a few. Standards excellent, very good quality across the board, which is very nice to see.
This isn't your first trip to the Isle of Man either.
No, it's not. It's a kind return. Some people say I've come back to apologise, but no, it's a kind return. You usually find, if you do a job well, people are kind enough to invite you back, and I like to feel perhaps I didn't do so badly after all the first time round.
Well, today I think there's some very happy exhibitors, and in particular Brian Lords. Now, he went away with quite a lot of silverware. You clearly liked his honey. What stood out with that?
I think across the board, Brian's obviously quite an accomplished beekeeper and preparer of exhibits. He is producing some very nice honeys, which apparently his main apiaries are over towards the west coast, or west side of the island at least. He does get hints of heather honey coming through, which you can pick up in the flavours now and again. He produces from his honey some honey wines, meads, and again in those, I said to him last night, I didn't know of course who his entries were, but after the results I picked up and I said, I'm getting heather in this, and I asked him afterwards, is there heather in it? And he said, yes, the bees do get some heather in there, so it's coming through, and that's what distinguishes and separates. You you can pick that up, and judges are a bit of a sucker for fooling for things with heather in, because it gives a little bit of a distinctive note.
I see. And now you're obviously a distinguished judge. You've been asked to 12 appointments this season alone, Peter. Now, does the Isle of Man stand up there against those other competitions?
Oh yes, more than enough. Very good standard. You tend to find everywhere's got a distinctive taste, and there's an Isle of Man taste which we'll hopefully get to look at a bit closer, because it'll be linked to the pollen and the floral types. I'm hoping some of the audience, when I give a talk shortly, will be able to chip in with what they think the main flowers contributing to the honeys are, because that tends to give a uniqueness and a character to defining areas specifically.
Yeah, I see. Now, the island's got an awful lot of gorse. I didn't think the bees would particularly keen on it, but they really are, apparently.
Oh, yes, gorse is a good fodder crop, and early season quite often were quite important, so that could well be what's coming through. Mm-hmm. It's nice. I also noticed, I gather there is on the north some brassica canola growing, which gives a very distinctive early honey crop, but it does taste a bit cabbagey to my mind. So it's not my preference.
But your good lady was here today also, Charlotte. She was judging the confectionery side of things, all to do with honey again.
Yes, all the ingredients, baking and preserves, have got honey as a key part of the ingredient. So when you're judging those categories, you're also looking to be able to pick up the honey flavours. And again, it's where a good strong flavoured honey tends to stand you in good stead. So again, favours heather honey.
Oh, well, I never. And you, from the Yorkshire area, obviously I've seen your exhibits and your pavilion at the Great Yorkshire Show on my visits. How do you find the beekeepers generally in Great Britain? Are they doing a good job?
Overall, yes, they're battling. It's not easy. I mean, environmental concerns are bringing a lot of pressures onto the bees and all wildlife generally. We've heard a talk here this afternoon from the Isle of Man Wildlife Trust highlighting the same. Pollinators are very important. Everybody's aware of that. And I think trying to do their best to optimise the beekeeping conditions. You know, it's all about whether you're a farmer of livestock or keeping bees. Animal husbandry is important, and you care about the animals in your charge. And bees are no less the same as all other.
And are you getting quite a number of young people coming into beekeeping?
You are. It's a difficult one because it's quite time demanding, and there's a lot of pressures on the young. We'd like to see quite often youngsters starting because they tend to come back to it later on, which is a great thing. It is a demanding thing. You know, you can't just do it casually. Bees are for life. They're not just for Christmas.
Roger, you're the president of the Isle of Man Beekeepers Association. You must be very proud of today, the 73rd Honey Show.
Yeah, it's been a superb display. We've had the most entries we've had for several years, all 141 of them, which is a small increase on the last few years. And according to Peter, our judge, the standard was, as ever, very high.
And that must be great news for your beekeepers. But a celebration of the harvest of this year's honey. How has it been for the bees?
Pretty good. There's plenty of honey on sale over the island, and you can choose from the north end right down to my honey in Port Erin. As a good choice, all good quality.
And you're saying about the quality, we've seen it on display in this hall today. The 12 jars, like you say, are right across the Isle of Man, so beautifully displayed, and so much time has gone into the effort.
Yes, very much so. This is a major highlight of the beekeeping year, so people try, make sure that the honey is well filtered, to make sure there are no bees' legs and bee bodies in it, which does tend to turn the public off a bit. So again, generally very, very high standard, and everyone has worked very hard.
And lots of exhibitors too, Roger, right across the board.
Yes, we could have done with a few more entries in the confectionery area and what we call the hive products, the cough mixture and things. So what we'll do is to encourage more entries in that area next year. So we try to learn from one year to the next.
And each year, I know that Silla Plata in previous years has held teaching courses for young beekeepers, newcomers to come along and have a try. How's that been going?
Well, every year we invite up to 40 people to come along. So far we've got, I think, 38, and they'll start next April. And they'll do 7 indoor sessions on a dark evening in Douglas, and then they'll go up the training apiary either in the north in Bride at Glentrowan or the Moraun apiary in Crosby for 4 or 5 afternoons getting stung and generally enjoying opening the hives.
Well, Dawn, a different day out for you today with the Isle of Man Beekeepers Federation, but a lovely talk done on Wildlife Trust.
Yeah, well, I hope it was very entertaining for people. I know they're very aware of what bees are, but I thought maybe with bumblebees and our solitary bees and mining bees, there's so many different sorts out there that it was really hard to sort of like cover the whole lot. But what a stunning show! My goodness, guys, get down here because that honey is amazing.
It really is, and it must be quite difficult for you to talk to beekeepers. You know, some of them are quite senior, very professional, and seriously competitive. But you pointed out in your talk there, Dawn, 76 different bee species. I really just did think there was just 1 or 2.
It's just absolutely amazing, and they come in different colours. They come tiny, big, fat bumblebees, covered in fluff, not covered in fluff. They are absolutely amazing, and they're so captivating once you start looking for them.
And how is it on the Isle of Man? How is our birds and bees doing?
The birds are like everywhere else, really. They're struggling, loss of habitat and things like that. But we think on the Isle of Man, we're not being hit as hard as in the UK because obviously they've got very, very intensive farming there. They use a lot more insecticides, which isn't really used, not in an agricultural sense on the island. So our invertebrates are doing a lot better. But that doesn't mean we can be complacent because, you know, I mean, it is affecting everyone. And with climatic change, we just don't know what's going to happen next.
And obviously, more recently, you've been working a lot with the agricultural sector.
Yes, we've got in charge of the agri-environment scheme. My colleague David Bellamy is in charge of that. Absolutely wonderful. And the farmers are doing a good job. You know, it's so easy to slam them, but they're trying really hard to get on board. And I think everyone realises the significance of pollinators, and that we all are trying to get there. And it's just wonderful the way they've come on board. I mean, we saw those fabulous pictures of those meadows, which are just stunning. They're doing a really good job.
And that is really lovely to hear because it is hard to get a balance. You're trying to make a living out of the farmland, but obviously nature is so important too.
Exactly. And, you know, they do take like a double hit really because if they set aside land for wildlife, they are actually losing some of their profit and income.
There we go. That was Dawn Colley from the Manx Wildlife Trust, visiting Judge Peter Lewis and the President of the Isle of Man Beekeepers, Roger Putman.
Such a following there, wasn't there?
Really brilliant. It was a really lovely day out, and everybody getting involved, young and old, and the cake was absolutely amazing.
And it's something that over recent time, I think it's something even from the medieval days of honey because it was so natural for people to get a hold of, wasn't it? Yet today with the Manuka honey, is it? What's it called?
All the
healing
health
properties?
benefits from it all. It's wonderful. And the displays of all the different types. There was shoe polish, there was cough medicine, lip balms. All these things can be made from honey and everything to do with the bees. But Dawn Colley saying how important they are to nature and everything to do with agriculture and the world generally. They're special, so special. And it was really lovely to have the visiting Judge Peter Lewis say how great the island's beekeepers are doing, and just a really lovely day out. So next year you should get entering. You've got bees, haven't you?
We have, yes. You never know. You never know what's this space. Okay, if you've got anything for Countryside, drop a line to Kirree Kermode or Simon Clark here at Manx Radio, or drop us an email, countryside@manxradio.com, or you can listen to the programme at your leisure on Manx Radio's website, powered by Millie Chaps of Ramsey. Just go to the podcast feature or listen again, and you can download the previous episodes of Countryside as well. So until next week, from me, Simon Clark,
And me, Kirree Kermode.
we'll see you then. Ta-da.
Bye-bye.